Hey friends, I'm George, and today we're going to talk about everything important to olive oil. What to look for when buying olive oil, what to avoid, what makes an olive oil healthy, what makes an olive oil have a strong taste. We're also going to tackle a few potential myths. Is olive oil bad to buy if it's sold in a plastic container? Is a darker colored olive oil better than a lighter colored one? If it doesn't create a tingling sensation in the back of your throat, is it a poor quality olive oil? I also purchased these olive oils here. They're all a little different, and I'm going to critique them one by one so that you know what the information on the label means before you put down your hard-earned cash. This is a delicious batch of olive oil that is grown in a privately owned orchard in Greece, and I receive some of it each year from a friend. I love the way that olive oil tastes, and I knew that you would not be able to taste it, so in a previous video that I did, I tried to find an affordable olive oil that resembled this one so that you can enjoy the flavor profile as well. This video is going to be about what makes the best olive oils the best, and there's a lot of data to look out for, like biophenol numbers, peroxide values, free fatty acids, oleic acids, DAGs, PPPs, atocopherols, squalene. Yeah, there's a lot to cover, and you will understand what all this information means by the end of this video. I wanted to find high quality olive oils near me. There were quite a few places that specialize in olive oil and vinegar, but they seem more like gourmet food tourist traps. The first thing you should look out for in an olive oil is a harvest and a production date. If you go online, you'll see that the recommended shelf life is anywhere from 18 to 24 months, but that may be how long it takes for an olive oil to turn rancid. However, the essential fatty acids and biophenols in olive oil begin to break down sooner, so it's always best to buy olive oil in quantities that will be opened within 10 to 12 months and used within 2 months after they're opened. If that seems like a lot of olive oil to consume, well, then you need to buy olive oil in smaller quantities. You may be buying your olive oil in these tins, and if you do, it's best to transfer the oil to glass jars for long-term storage, dark glass jars, because they are affected by light. Now, can you refrigerate olive oil? According to a paper published at Michigan State University, you can, but not for the premium oils we're going to talk about today. But what causes olive oil to oxidize is air, light, and heat. We can control light and heat more easily than air, and one way is to store the olive oil in glass rather than plastic. So here's myth number one. A lot of people believe that storing olive oil in plastic is a bad thing because the chemicals in the plastic could leach into the olive oil. Now that would be true if these chemicals were in the plastic, but even if there were a perfectly inert plastic container, storing olive oil in it would be a bad idea because plastic is more porous than glass, and it will allow more air to come in contact with the oil. If you buy olive oil in metal tins, don't keep them in the tins for long-term storage. Tin containers are not made of pure tin, so the metals will eventually react with the oil. Store your oil in a dark, cool place, ideally between 50 and 60 degrees Fahrenheit or 10 to 15 degrees Celsius. Store your oils in glass, dark glass, filled to the rim. Do not refrigerate your premium olive oils. I kept expanding my search for a store I could visit, and finally I settled on this one in Brooklyn, Olive Brooklyn. I called the store, and the owner, Greg, picked up the phone right away, and we hit it off. I never met Greg in person. I've never been to his store. He's not sponsored this video. I've purchased these olive oils with my own money. I can tell you, though, that Greg's an expert on olive oils. I told Greg that I wanted him to select for me 6 olive oils that ran the spectrum of different flavor profiles from mild to heavy biophenol that had both a harvest and manufacture date and that were extra virgin first cold press. He told me that's all he sold, and he only had 5 olive oils in his whole store. That's when I knew that these olive oils were going to be the real deal. The olive oils I purchased had specific details about their intensity, biophenol levels, and flavor. In my last video, I got a lot of criticism for not enjoying the stinging sensation that olive oils can impart in the back of your throat from one of the healthiest contents in olive oil, biophenols. So in the last video, the link will pop up at the end of this video, it was about finding quality budget olive oils and their taste. It's really unlikely that you will find specific information on the label of those olive oils that are clear indicators of a superior quality olive oil. In 1996, the term biophenols was first used to more accurately describe the metabolites present in plants. Biophenols is a more accurate definition than what is commonly referred to as polyphenols in olive oils. But basically, the higher the biophenol count, the more outstanding the health benefits. They have been scientifically proven to be anti-inflammatory and anti-cancer. and are some of the most powerful antioxidants. Now, the higher the biophenols, the more likely that you'll have that pungent feeling in the back of your throat. But if you're not getting that, it doesn't mean that your olive oil isn't high in biophenols. Some biophenols are stronger tasting than others. Oleosanthol is another example of a very pungent biophenol. So you have to rely on the data rather than the taste. The best olive oils are sourced from a single variety of olive from a single location. The olives that made these olive oils were all harvested and crushed on May of 2022. I have arranged these from least biophenol content to highest. This is a Haji Blanca from Australia. Biophenols are 186. This is an Arbequina from Chile. Biophenols are 331. This is a Coratina from Australia, and the biophenols are 404. This is a Fabulosa from Chile. Biophenols are 416. And this is a Picual from Chile. Biophenols are 636. The biophenols are measured in parts per million, and there is no standard for biophenol content in the olive oil industry. But for people who consume olive oil for health reasons, higher the number, the better. For flavor purposes, a bolder olive oil usually has a biophenol count over 250 parts per million, but it also depends on what the olive varietal is and when it's harvested and how it is stored. The three major biophenols found in olive oil that give olive oil its flavor profile are oleocanthal, hydroxytyrosol, and tyrosol. But the biophenol count of the olive does not indicate which biophenols are in that olive oil, and there can be up to 20 different biophenols in olive oil. Some biophenols can affect the color of the olive oil, and here is where we can put another myth to rest. The color of the olive oil determines its quality. In a proper blind olive oil tasting, blue glass is used so that judges cannot judge the olive oil on its color. Olive oil color is not even a consideration in an olive oil tasting. Now, before I taste these, I want to go over some crucial numbers that determine the quality of an olive oil. This olive oil was produced in Australia exclusively using Haji Blanca olives. Now, if we look at the chemical composition of this olive oil, it gives us a good indication of what to look for when buying olive oil. It's important to look at the peroxide value. The peroxide value of an olive oil is affected by procedures used in processing the olive oil and the storage of the oil. In order for an olive oil to be considered EVOO, the peroxide value must be 20 or less. Now, for really good olive oils, the value should be at least below 12. The higher the number, the more likely the oil will smell musty or rancid, and it's an indication that the oil has been damaged by free radicals. The Haji Blanca is a 4.7. The lowest in this lineup is the Cortina, which is at 1.4. These olive oils have been reviewed by an organoleptic taste panel. And what does that mean? Individual olive oil tasters basically define through taste and smell the levels of fruitiness, bitterness, and pungency of an olive oil. And even though you may think that this is subjective to the taster, it's really not. In 1992, the International Olive Council used instrumentation to determine what factors contribute to these three characteristics of olive oil to an accuracy of 95%. So in order to be a taster, you have to be as accurate as the scientific instrumentation. I am not. This olive oil is considered to be of mild intensity, and the organoleptic taste panel assessment on a scale of 1 to 6 gives it a fruitiness of 5, a bitterness of 2.8, and a pungency of 3.0. Wow, it has like a floral essence. It's almost like it has like morning gardenia. It's funny. It's creamy. It almost has like a fruity taste. I'm tasting some vegetables like tomato maybe. It's not very peppery. It is very mild, and I would almost use it where a neutral oil is called for. It has an FFA value of 0.17, but what does that mean? FFA stands for free fatty acids, and it's also more commonly known as the acidity of the olive oil. The International Olive Council requires that this number be below 0.8 in order for an olive oil to be considered extra virgin grade. If it's more than 0.8 but less than 2%, it can be classified as virgin, but over 2% and it's not even considered edible. It's an indication of the condition of the olives at time of crush. The healthier the olive oil, the lower the FFA number. The lower the FFA number, the higher the smoke point. So let's address myth number 3. It's bad to cook with extra virgin olive oils. As long as the FFA number is low, go for it. The flavors of a quality of olive oil will not be affected during cooking.
What?
As a matter of fact, the essences of the olive oil will be transferred into the dish you are creating, and that brings us to myth number 4. Your olive oil cannot be used to fry with.
What? Say what again?
Olive oils with a low FFA number can be brought to a temperature of 400 degrees Fahrenheit or 204 degrees Celsius. The FFA number for the Arbequina is slightly lower at 0.15. Now the taste panel assessment is similar to the Hoji Blanca, even more fruity. All the chemical specs between these olive oils are similar. The DAG levels are almost the same. DAG stands for diaglycerols. Now fresh olive oil that's made from sound fruit should result in a DAG content of 85% or higher. The processing of rotten or fermented olives will produce olive oils with low DAGs. That means that it'll have a lower shelf life. They are highly influenced by heat as well as the FFA number, but not light. An olive oil is considered failed if the DAG number is 35%. Now unfortunately, most grocery store olive oils, when tested, fall into that lower spectrum. So myth number 5, all EVOO olive oils are the same quality. Some can be made with inferior quality olives. They can be at the lower end of the spectrum rating of the International Olive Council. Now if the DAG value isn't listed on the label, you just don't know. This one is a lot more stronger olive scent, much more floral. You can tell there's definitely a greater depth of intensity in this olive oil. Compared to the Hoji Blanca, this Chilean Arbequina is just as creamy. Has a much more green vegetable flavor. It kind of does smell, like on the description on the website, it does smell a little bit like cut grass. Again, it's not very peppery, a little bit more peppery than the Hoji Blanca. I would like to saute spinach with this or drizzle it on fresh sauteed green vegetables like leeks. The biophenol content is in the low 300s, where the Hoji Blanca was just under 200 or so, but I'm not finding it to be very, very strong. Definitely a little bit more. This olive oil is made from Coratina olives and comes from Australia. The biophenol numbers are starting to get into the higher range, and the taste panel is starting to indicate that the olive oil is going to be more robust than the Hoji Blanca and the Arbequina. We'll talk a little bit about oleic acid. They all have similar amounts of oleic acid, ranging in the 70s. That is what percentage of fatty acids in that particular olive oil is oleic acid. Higher levels of oleic acid in an olive oil help to keep it fresher for longer, preventing the formation of peroxidized or rancid fats. Our bodies easily absorb these rancid fats, so the presence of oleic acid protects our cell membranes, proteins, and DNA from being damaged. It is suggested that it helps regulate healthy blood pressure, and the US FDA has approved the health claim that limited and conclusive scientific evidence suggests that eating about 2 tablespoons or 23 grams of olive oil daily may reduce the risk of coronary heart disease due to the monounsaturated fat in olive oil. There you have it. That smells like cucumbers. Definitely more pungent than the Hoji Blanca and slightly more bitter. I'm tasting like acidic fruit, like unripened strawberries, sour green apples. It's very intense fruit. This is like the type of olive oil I would finish grilled seafood with. I even bet that this olive oil would taste amazing drizzled on a freshly ripened white fig. We are starting to get into much higher polyphenols with the Fabulosa 416. Panel assessments suggest a high bitterness and pungency. And look at the DAGs. They're almost at 97. We will also be talking about the PPP level in a minute. This olive oil has a ridiculously low number of less than 1%. Wow, very strong aroma. Much more of a indicative of a very high quality olive oil. Not that the other ones weren't, but this is just kind of smacks you in the face, makes my mouth water. I'm smelling, again, that fresh cut grass. Interesting. Definitely taste the polyphenols here. They're much, much stronger. The tasting notes said that there was the taste of pear. I'm not tasting pear, but I am tasting of fruit that I really can't pinpoint exactly. Almost like unripened honeydew melon. even though the biophenol count is at 416, and I'm starting to sense it in the back of my throat, which I typically don't like, this is very, very tolerable. I kind of like it. Unfortunately, I dropped the Pequol olive oil, but there was a little left in the bottle so that I could taste it on camera. Oh, you motherless. The Pequol olives used to produce this Chilean olive oil has the highest level of biophenols in the lineup, coming in at a whopping 625 parts per million. Now, according to the taste panel assessment, it's less fruity, more bitter, and pungent than the others. Looking at the other stats, all of these olive oils vary in the ppp number. But what is it? It stands for pyrophyllophytin A, and it's a percentage that indicates chlorophyll degradation in olive oils, which is usually caused by exposure to heat and light. Olive oils that are refined with heat will have a higher ppp number. 17% is considered failing. Refining olive oil with heat is also called soft column refining. Using this method, manufacturers can neutralize some chemical parameters in old oils or oils made from overripe and fermented olives so that they can pass typical authenticity tests undetected. But it will cause the ppp numbers to elevate. The percentage for the olive oils here are very low, which brings me to another myth. Myth number 6. Cold pressed olive oils are the best. Well, a cold pressed olive oil is definitely better than one that is not. And there are strict standards in place in determining the maximum temperature that can be used to extract olive oil for it to be labeled cold pressed. The maximum number is 27 degrees Celsius. But unless there's a ppp number on the bottle, you can't be sure of the quality of the olives. That is highly aromatic. This is more of the type of olive oil scent that I'm used to finding in the olive oil that I get from my country back home, from Greece, from a friend of mine. It smells of, again, there's hints of a floral scent. I'm almost smelling a little bit of raspberry in there, believe it or not. I'm smelling a hint of lily of the valley. Interesting. You know, for an olive oil here that has that level of biophenols in it, the let me see where it was here. The Fabulosa actually tasted more harsh, more of a sting in the back of my throat than this one. This one is delicious. Nice finish at the end. It's kind of creamy. I mean, these are all great, fantastic olive oils. Finally, olive oils contain two specific types of antioxidants in the form of vitamin E. You have A-tocopherols, and resembling the chemical structure of vitamin E, you have squalene. A-tocopherols help in boosting the immune system and help keep blood clots from forming. Both of these are potent antioxidants, especially squalene, which happens to be a natural part of our cell structure. Now, it is important to keep track of your consumption of certain vitamins, like vitamin E, but you would have to really consume an unrealistic amount of olive oil to reach a harmful level. Just like anything else, moderation is key. You don't want to chug olive oil for its health benefits. A little does go a long way. If you have a really great olive oil with these criteria on its label, I would love to know about it, and so would everyone else watching this, so leave a comment. A link to Olive Brooklyn, Greg's shop, is in the description. From what I can tell, he's an honest guy selling a product that he believes in, and I like that. He ships his olive oils, maybe he can send you some. If you like this video, let me know by hitting that like button. Cheers.